Olivia Reed stepped into the grand ballroom of Westbrook Manor with hesitant steps, immediately aware of how out of place she looked. The annual charity auction was the social event of the season, and the room glittered with designer gowns, expensive jewelry, and the county's elite. In her simple blue cotton dress, the nicest one she owned, Olivia clutched her worn leather purse and tried to ignore the whispers and sidelong glances. Who invited the help? A woman in a red sequined gown stage whispered to her companion. They both tittered behind manicured hands. Perhaps she's here to serve drinks, the other woman replied, eyeing Olivia's calloused hands with disdain. At 26, Olivia was used to such treatment from the townspeople. For the past 8 years, she had been known simply as the farmer girl, tending to the modest property she'd inherited after her grandfather's passing. What nobody knew was that Grandfather Reed had been teaching her about more than just crops and livestock during those long summer visits of her childhood. Tonight, however, wasn't about proving anything to these people. She was here for lot number 47, a specific painting that was rumored to be part of the auction. Her determination to acquire it outweighed any embarrassment from the mocking glances and hushed comments. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The auction will begin momentarily," announced the host, Franklin Westbrook, a silver-haired man whose family had owned the manor for generations. Olivia found a seat in the back corner, where she hoped to attract minimal attention. The chair beside her remained empty, a small mercy in the otherwise packed room. "Is this seat taken?" A deep voice startled her from her thoughts. Looking up, Olivia met the warm brown eyes of a tall man in a well-tailored suit. Unlike the others, his expression held no judgment, just polite inquiry. "No, it's free," she replied, quickly looking away. "I'm Marcus Bennett," he said, extending his hand. "I don't believe we've met before." "Olivia Reed," she answered, shaking his hand briefly. "I don't come to these events often." "Neither do I, to be honest. I'm only here because my grandmother insists I need to engage with society," he said with a gentle laugh, making air quotes. "She thinks 30 is too old to be a hermit." Before Olivia could respond, the auctioneer called for attention, and the event began. Luxury vacations, jewelry, and sports memorabilia were presented and sold for staggering amounts to benefit the local hospital. Olivia sat quietly, waiting for lot 47 to appear. When it finally did, her heart raced. There it was, an unassuming landscape painting of the countryside outside town, painted nearly a century ago. "We'll start the bidding at $500 for this quaint pastoral scene by unknown local artist," the auctioneer announced dismissively. Olivia raised her numbered paddle immediately. A few other bidders joined in, but most of the crowd seemed uninterested in the modest artwork. $1,000, called Olivia when the bidding reached $900. The woman in the red dress from earlier turned to stare. Does the farmer girl even know how much $1,000 is? She loudly whispered to those around her, prompting more laughter. Marcus frowned at the comment but remained silent, watching Olivia with growing curiosity as the bidding continued. When it reached $2,500, Olivia's voice remained steady as she raised her paddle again. By $5,000, the room had grown quieter, with only one other bidder remaining, a distinguished older gentleman who kept eyeing the painting with growing intensity. The mocking whispers had transformed into confused murmurs. $10,000, Olivia called confidently, silencing the room entirely. The other bidder reluctantly shook his head, and the auctioneer's gavel fell. "Sold to the young lady in the blue dress." As Olivia rose to claim her prize, the questions hanging in the air were almost tangible. Who was this farmer girl, really? And what did she know about this worthless painting that they didn't? The room buzzed with whispers as Olivia made her way to the payment counter. The woman in the red dress was now openly staring, her previous mockery replaced by confused speculation. Olivia kept her expression neutral, though inside her heart hammered against her ribs. $10,000 was exactly the amount she had prepared to spend, the entirety of her savings from years of careful living. "You have quite an eye," Marcus commented, appearing beside her as she completed the transaction. "Most people overlook that painting entirely." "Sometimes value isn't immediately obvious," Olivia replied, carefully taking the wrapped canvas from the auction assistant. "Would you join me for a drink?" Marcus asked. "I have a feeling there's more to your story than meets the eye." Olivia Reed. She hesitated, clutching the painting to her chest. "I should probably head home. I have animals to tend to in the morning." "Just one drink," he pressed gently. "I promise I'm not like the others here. I'm genuinely curious about your interest in that specific painting." Something in his earnest expression made Olivia nod reluctantly. They found a quiet corner of the ballroom where refreshments were being served. "So, are you an art collector?" Marcus asked, handing her a glass of champagne. "Not exactly," Olivia answered. She glanced around to ensure no one was listening before continuing. "My grandfather taught me to recognize hidden value. This painting isn't just a landscape, it's what's painted over that matters." Marcus's eyebrows shot up. "You think it's a lost masterpiece?" "I know it is," she replied with quiet confidence. "My grandfather was an art authenticator before he retired to farming. He taught me everything he knew during those summers I spent with him." "That's fascinating," Marcus said, leaning forward. "And no one else recognized it." "The previous owner died without realizing what he had. His family donated it to this auction thinking it was worthless." Olivia took a small sip of champagne. "Grandfather always said true value often hides in plain sight." As they talked, Franklin Westbrook approached their table, accompanied by the distinguished older gentleman who had bid against Olivia. "Miss Reed, isn't it?" Franklin said with a forced smile. "This is Mr. Harrison Blake from the National Gallery. He's quite interested in your purchase." Blake studied Olivia with shrewd eyes. "Young lady, I wonder if you fully understand what you've acquired tonight. I'd be happy to offer you $15,000 for it right now, a $5,000 profit without even leaving the building." Olivia met his gaze steadily. "That's very generous, Mr. Blake, but I'm afraid it's not for sale." Blake's friendly demeanor faltered slightly. "$20,000 then? You must admit that's quite substantial for a farmer's daughter." The condescension in his tone made Olivia's spine straighten. "I'm more than just a farmer's daughter, Mr. Blake, and I understand exactly what I've purchased." Franklin cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps you should reconsider, Miss Reed. Mr. Blake is a highly respected expert." "So is my grandfather," she replied. "Theodore Reed, perhaps you've heard of him." Blake's expression transformed instantly. "Theodore Reed was your grandfather? The Theodore Reed who authenticated the lost Vermeer in '89? Olivia nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "The very same. He taught me everything he knew about art authentication and restoration." "I had no idea Theodore had family in the area," Blake said, his tone now respectful. "His work was legendary in our field." "Most people don't know," Olivia replied. "He valued his privacy in his later years. Preferred to be known as just a simple farmer." Marcus watched this exchange with growing admiration, while Franklin Westbrook looked thoroughly confused at the sudden shift in dynamics. "Perhaps we could discuss this further," Blake suggested. "If the painting is what I suspect it might be, it could be quite significant." "I already know what it is, Mr. Blake," Olivia said calmly, "and I have plans for its restoration. But thank you for your interest." As Blake reluctantly retreated with a bewildered Franklin, Marcus looked at Olivia with new eyes. "You're full of surprises, Olivia Reed. I think this evening just got a lot more interesting." The following morning, Olivia rose before dawn as usual. Her small farmhouse, nestled on 20 acres of land at the edge of town, was modest but well kept. After tending to her chickens and 2 dairy cows, she returned to the kitchen, where the painting sat propped against the wall. Carefully, she unwrapped it and placed it on a homemade easel in her grandfather's old study. What appeared to be an unremarkable landscape to the untrained eye held secrets that only she could see. The slightly uneven texture beneath certain brushstrokes, the peculiar way light caught the northern corner, all telltale signs her grandfather had taught her to recognize. A knock at the door startled her. Opening it, she found Marcus standing on her porch, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I hope you don't mind," he said, looking slightly sheepish. "I asked around town for directions to the Reed farm." Olivia hesitated before accepting the coffee. "Most people don't come out this way voluntarily." "Oh, not most people," he replied with a smile. "And after last night, I couldn't stop thinking about your story." She studied him for a moment before stepping aside. "Come in then, but I should warn you. I'm about to start work that doesn't typically welcome spectators." Marcus followed her to the study, where the morning light streamed through large windows onto the painting. "Your grandfather's workspace?" he had asked, noticing the specialized tools organized neatly on shelves. "Yes, I converted it after we passed," Olivia explained, donning a pair of cotton gloves. "Not many people know that Theodore Reed continued his work in art authentication privately after moving here. The farming was more of a cover, and a passion to be fair." "And you inherited both passions," Marcus observed. Olivia nodded. "The farm keeps me grounded, but this," she gestured to the painting, "this is what truly connects me to him." She carefully positioned the painting under a specialized light and removed a small kit of tools from a drawer. With practiced hands, she began examining the edges of the canvas. "What exactly do you suspect is underneath?" Marcus asked, keeping a respectful distance. "Based on the age of the overpainting and the frame construction, I believe it's a lost Matisse from his early period," Olivia replied, her focus unwavering. During World War II, many valuable paintings were disguised as worthless works to prevent theft. And her grandfather somehow knew about this one. He had been tracking rumors of it for years. Before he died, he showed me a photograph of a similar painting that had disappeared in 1943. He believed it had been overpainted and sold to a collector who never realized what he had. She carefully tested a small corner with a specialized solution. The original collector died last year, and his entire estate was liquidated, including this worthless landscape that nobody wanted. Marcus watched in fascination as Olivia worked methodically, her hands steady and confident. "The people in town, they have no idea who you really are, do they?" "They see what they expect to see," she replied, a hint of sadness in her voice. "After grandfather died, it was easier to just be the quiet farmer girl who keeps to herself. Art authentication is a difficult field to break into without connections." "But you clearly have the skills," Marcus observed. "Skills, yes. Credentials, no," Olivia sighed. "I learned everything through apprenticeship with my grandfather, not formal education. The art world values paper qualifications." As the morning progressed, Olivia continued her careful examination, occasionally making notes or taking photographs. Marcus asked intelligent questions that revealed his own knowledge of art wasn't superficial. "My family collects," he explained when Olivia remarked on this. "Though I'm considered the black sheep for pursuing architecture instead of joining the family investment firm." By midday, Olivia had confirmed enough to proceed with the first stage of restoration. "If you're planning to stay, this part will take several hours," she warned Marcus. "I'd like to if you don't mind the company," he replied. "This is far more interesting than the endless social functions my grandmother insists I attend." As Olivia began the painstaking process of revealing what lay beneath the landscape, a comfortable silence fell between them, punctuated only by the occasional explanation of techniques or tools. By late afternoon, a small section in the corner had been carefully cleaned, revealing colors and brushstrokes distinctly different from the overlying painting. "That's definitely not from the same artist," Marcus said, leaning closer. Olivia's eyes shone with quiet triumph. "No, it's not. And if I'm right, what we're uncovering is worth significantly more than the $10,000 that made everyone gasp last night." "How much more?" Marcus asked. Olivia looked up at him, her expression serious. "If it's the Matisse I believe it to be, we're talking millions." Word of Olivia's purchase spread quickly through the small town. By the following afternoon, curious neighbors found excuses to drive past her property, hoping to catch a glimpse of the farmer girl who had shocked everyone at the auction. The local newspaper even sent a junior reporter to request an interview, which Olivia politely declined. "The attention will die down eventually," Olivia told Marcus, who had returned for the third consecutive day to watch her work. She was making remarkable progress, having cleared nearly a quarter of the painting to reveal vivid colors and distinctive brushwork beneath. "I'm not so sure," Marcus replied, handing her a specialized cleaning solution. "Harrison Blake has been making inquiries about you all over town. He's staying at the Westbrook estate and apparently won't leave until he speaks with you again." Olivia frowned, carefully applying the solution to a stubborn section of overpainting. "I'm not interested in selling, especially not to him." There was something in his manner that reminded me of warnings my grandfather used to give about certain collectors. "What kind of warnings?" "That some people value acquisition over preservation. That they'd rather own a piece of history than protect it." She sat back, stretching her stiff shoulders. Grandfather believed art of historical significance belonged where the public could appreciate it. Marcus studied her thoughtfully. "Is that your plan for this piece, then, a museum?" "Ideally, yes. But first I need to complete the restoration and authenticate it properly." She hesitated. "That's where things get complicated. Without formal credentials, I'll need to bring in a recognized expert to confirm what I already know." Before Marcus could respond, the sound of tires on gravel announced a visitor. Through the window, Olivia spotted a sleek black car pulling up to her farmhouse. "That's Blake's rental," Marcus said, frowning. "How do you find your address?" "Small town," Olivia replied grimly. "Everyone knows where the farmer girl lives." She removed her gloves and headed to the door, intercepting Blake before he could knock. Standing beside him was a woman Olivia recognized from the auction, The one in the red dress who had mocked her openly. Miss Reed, Blake greeted with a tight smile. I hope you don't mind the intrusion. Mrs. Westbrook kindly offered to show me to your property. Actually, I do mind, Olivia replied coolly. I'm in the middle of work. Victoria Westbrook, Franklin's wife, peered around Olivia into the house. We're all just dying to know what's so special about that dreadful painting you bought, she said, her tone falsely sweet. Harrison here thinks you might have been taken advantage of, paying so much for it. I assure you, I knew exactly what I was doing, Olivia stated firmly. Blake's expression hardened slightly. Miss Reed, I understand your grandfather taught you some basics of art appreciation, but restoration is a delicate science. You could be damaging a potentially valuable piece. I'm well aware of proper restoration techniques, Mr. Blake, Olivia replied, her patience wearing thin. Now, if you'll excuse me. I'm prepared to offer $50,000, sight unseen, Blake interrupted. That's 5 times what you paid. Victoria gasped. 50,000? For that dreary little landscape? It's not for sale, Olivia reiterated. At any price. Blake's friendly facade dropped completely. Young lady, you're out of your depth. Whatever you think you have, you need professional expertise. My colleagues at the National Gallery are welcome to view the piece once I've completed my work, Olivia interrupted. But I will not sell it to a private collector. That was never my intention. Victoria Westbrook looked between them, her confusion evident. I don't understand what's happening. It's just a worthless old painting. Mrs. Westbrook, Marcus said, appearing beside Olivia. Perhaps you and Mr. Blake should respect Olivia's wishes and leave. And you are? Blake demanded. Marcus Bennett, a friend of Miss Reed's. Recognition flickered in Victoria's eyes. Bennett? Of the Chicago Bennetts, the art collectors. Marcus nodded curtly. The same, and I fully support Olivia's right to handle her property as she sees fit. Blake studied Marcus with new wariness. This is highly irregular. If that painting is what I suspect, then it's even more important that it be properly restored before any decisions are made. Marcus finished firmly. After several tense moments, Blake reluctantly retreated to his car, but not before saying, "This isn't over, Miss Reed. Art of historical significance carries certain responsibilities." As the black car pulled away, Olivia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you for backing me up." Marcus shrugged. Blake is known in collecting circles for acquiring pieces through questionable means. Whatever's under that landscape, I trust your grandfather's training over Blake's expertise any day. Olivia smiled, her first genuine smile in days. Speaking of which, we should get back to work. I think we're about to uncover the signatured area. 3 days later, Olivia stood back from the easel, her heart pounding. The painstaking work had paid off. Before her, nearly fully revealed, was unquestionably an authentic Henri Matisse from his Fauve period, its vibrant colors and distinctive style unmistakable to anyone with knowledge of the artist's work. It's magnificent, Marcus breathed, standing beside her. Over the past week, he had become not just an observer, but a helpful assistant, learning restoration techniques with remarkable quickness. Woman by the window, Olivia said softly. Painted in 1905, believed destroyed during the war. My grandfather was right. The signature in the corner, now clearly visible, confirmed what Olivia had suspected all along. This was not merely a valuable painting, it was a lost masterpiece, a piece of art history, gone forever. What now? Marcus asked. Now I need to document everything properly and contact the right people, Olivia replied. Not Blake, obviously, but there are reputable authenticators who worked with my grandfather. I have their information in his files. The ringing of her phone interrupted them. Olivia answered to find Franklin Westbrook on the line, his tone unusually deferential. Miss Reed, I'm calling to personally invite you to a gathering at the Manor this evening, he said. Several prominent art collectors and museum representatives will be attending. Harrison suggested your presence would be valuable. Olivia frowned. This sounds like an ambush, Mr. Westbrook. Not at all, he'd assured her quickly. It's simply an opportunity for you to meet the right people, especially if your painting is of interest to the art community. Many of these individuals traveled here specifically because of rumors about a possible Matisse discovery. After ending the call, Olivia turned to Marcus with concern. Blake is talking about the painting. How could he know what it is? We've been careful not to let anyone else see it. Marcus's expression darkened. Someone must be watching the house. Blake is known for employing people to gather information when he's pursuing a significant piece. I need to secure the painting, Olivia said, suddenly alarmed. If word gets out before proper authentication, you should go to the gathering, Marcus suggested. Keep Blake and the others distracted while I arrange for secure transport of the painting to Chicago. My family's foundation has a state-of-the-art restoration facility where we can complete the work safely. Olivia hesitated, torn between protecting her discovery and confronting those who had dismissed her for years. If I go, I'll need to look the part, she said finally. They're expecting the farmer girl they can intimidate or dismiss. Marcus smiled. I think it's time Olivia Reed stepped fully into her grandfather's legacy, don't you? That evening, a sleek car pulled up to Westbrook Manor, drawing curious glances from the valets. When Olivia stepped out, even those who had seen her at the auction barely recognized her. Gone was the simple blue dress, replaced by an elegant black evening gown that Marcus had arranged to be delivered from the city. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical ponytail, now fell in soft waves around her shoulders. But the most remarkable transformation wasn't in her appearance, it was in her bearing. Olivia entered the ballroom with the confident poise of someone who belonged in the world of high art and culture. Conversations halted as she passed, with Victoria Westbrook nearly dropping her champagne glass in shock. Blake, engaged in conversation with a group of distinguished-looking individuals, turned and froze momentarily before recovering his composure. Miss Reed, he greeted, approaching her. I'm pleased you could join us. I was just telling my colleagues from the Metropolitan Museum about your interesting find. Mr. Blake, Olivia acknowledged coolly, aware of all eyes on her. I hope you haven't been making promises about a painting you haven't properly examined. A distinguished woman stepped forward. Harrison has been quite mysterious, actually. I'm Diana Harrington, curator of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist art at the Met. He mentioned a possible early Matisse. It's more than possible, Olivia replied confidently. It's Woman by the Window, 1905, previously believed destroyed during World War II. A murmur ran through the gathered crowd. Diana's eyes widened. That would be an extraordinary find. You have proper documentation. I'm completing the restoration and authentication process, Olivia explained. My grandfather was Theodore Reed, whose authentication methods I believe you're familiar with, Miss Harrington. Recognition dawned in the curator's eyes. Theodore Reed was your grandfather. His monograph on disguised wartime masterpieces is still required reading for our conservation students. Blake looked increasingly uncomfortable as the conversation continued, with Olivia calmly answering technical questions that revealed her extensive knowledge. The whispers around the room had transformed from mockery to amazement. Victoria Westbrook, unable to contain herself, finally approached. I don't understand. You're just the girl who tends that small farm at the edge of town. How could you possibly know all this? Olivia smiled slightly. People often see only what they expect to see, Mrs. Westbrook. You expected a simple farmer, so that's all you saw. By midnight, the dynamics in the room had shifted dramatically. The art experts who had initially humored Blake's invitation now clustered around Olivia, engaging her in detailed discussions about authentication techniques and the historical significance of the discovered Matisse. Her knowledge impressed even the most skeptical among them, and several had extended invitations for her to visit their institutions. Blake, meanwhile, had grown increasingly agitated, his earlier confidence replaced by barely concealed frustration. His attempts to redirect attention to himself were largely ignored as Olivia became the center of the gathering. I'd be happy to arrange for the painting to be exhibited at the Metropolitan after proper authentication and restoration, Diana Harrington was saying. A lost Matisse from that period would attract worldwide attention. That's very generous, Olivia replied. My grandfather always believed art of this significance should be accessible to the public, not hidden in private collections. She glanced meaningfully at Blake, who scowled in response. Franklin Westbrook, sensing the shifting power dynamics, had positioned himself near Olivia, now treating her with the deference previously reserved for his wealthy patrons. Miss Reed has been a hidden treasure in our community, he declared, as if he always recognized her talents. Victoria merely watched from a distance, her earlier mockery replaced by confused reassessment. As the evening progressed, Olivia felt her phone vibrate with a text from Marcus. Painting secure. Professional transport arranged. All clear. Relief washed over her. The Matisse was safely away from prying eyes and potential theft. She could now focus on establishing her credibility with these influential figures in the art world. Miss Reed called a voice she recognized. Turning, she found herself face to face with Professor Reynolds, her former high school teacher who had once discouraged her from pursuing art history. "I must say, this is quite unexpected. I always thought your interest in art was just a hobby." "Many things appear to be unexpected tonight, Professor," Olivia replied evenly, "including the discovery of a painting worth more than this entire estate." The professor had the grace to look embarrassed. "Had I known about your grandfather's expertise, would it have changed how you viewed a farmer's granddaughter?" Olivia asked quietly. Before he could answer, Diana Harrington rejoined them. "Olivia, I've been speaking with my colleagues and would like to offer you a consulting position with our authentication department. Your grandfather's methodologies combined with your clear expertise would be invaluable." Olivia blinked in surprise. That's very generous, but I don't have formal qualifications." "Experience and natural talent sometimes outweigh formal education," Diana replied. "Besides, we can arrange for you to complete any necessary credentials while working with us." As this conversation unfolded, Blake made one final attempt to assert control. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced loudly, "while Miss Reed's story is certainly charming, I must caution against premature excitement. Authentication requires rigorous protocols that can't be conducted in a farmhouse by an amateur, regardless of who her grandfather was." The room grew quiet, all eyes moving between Blake and Olivia. "Mr. Blake," Olivia said calmly, "I've documented every step of the restoration process using the protocols established by the International Council of Museums. The provenance research is extensive, including documented rumors of this painting's survival that my grandfather compiled over decades. My methods may not match your acquisition techniques, but they are thorough and ethical." Several of the museum representatives nodded in agreement, and Blake's face flushed with anger. "Where is the painting now?" he demanded. "I insist on seeing it immediately." "It's been moved to a secure facility for the completion of restoration," Olivia replied. "Given your unusual interest and the painting's immense value, I thought it prudent." Blake stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, farm girl. That painting belongs in my collection, and I always get what I want." "Not this time," Olivia replied firmly. "And I suggest you reconsider your tone. Threats don't work well when witnessed by the art world's most respected curators." Blake glanced around, suddenly aware of the many observers. With a final glare, he strode from the room, leaving a buzz of speculation in his wake. Diana approached Olivia again. "Blake has a reputation for aggressive acquisition tactics. Was the painting truly at risk?" "I believe so," Olivia answered honestly. "But it's safe now, and once the restoration is complete, I'd like to arrange for it to tour several museums before finding a permanent home. Starting with the Metropolitan, if your offer still stands." Diana smiled warmly. "Absolutely, and our job offer stands as well. The art world needs more people with your integrity and expertise, Olivia." As the gathering began to disperse, Franklin Westbrook approached one final time. "Miss Reed, I must apologize for any misconceptions our community may have had about you. Perhaps you'd consider joining the board of our local arts council. We could certainly use your knowledge." Olivia couldn't help but smile at the irony. The same people who had dismissed her for years were now scrambling to associate themselves with her success. "I'll consider it, Mr. Westbrook," she replied diplomatically. "But first, I have a restoration to complete and a new career to begin." As she left the manor that night, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. For the first time since her grandfather's death, she was stepping fully into her true identity. Not just the quiet farmer girl, but the art expert he had trained her to become. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the center of the Metropolitan Museum's special exhibition hall, surrounded by art enthusiasts, scholars, and reporters. The fully restored Matisse, Woman by the Window, 1905, gleamed on the wall before her, its vivid colors and revolutionary brushwork drawing gasps of appreciation from visitors. The exhibition, titled Lost and Found, the rediscovery of Matisse's Woman by the Window, had become the talk of the art world. Alongside the painting itself, displays chronicled Theodore Reed's decades-long search for the lost masterpiece and Olivia's meticulous restoration work. "You've created quite a sensation," Marcus said, appearing at her side in a perfectly tailored suit. Over the past months, he had become more than a friend. His support during the authentication process and subsequent media attention had blossomed into a deeper relationship. "We created it together," Olivia corrected him. "I couldn't have done this without you." Marcus smiled, taking her hand. "Your grandfather would be incredibly proud, not just of finding the painting, but of how you've handled everything since." Indeed, Olivia had navigated her sudden fame with grace. She had completed her first semester at Columbia University, where she was formerly studying art history while working as a consultant for the Met's authentication department. Her first scholarly paper on disguised wartime masterpieces had already been accepted for publication in a prestigious journal. Miss Reed called Diana Harrington, approaching with a distinguished elderly gentleman. "I'd like you to meet someone very special. This is Dr. Philip Laurent from the Louvre." The French curator bowed slightly. "Mademoiselle Reed, it is an honor. Your discovery has rewritten a small but significant chapter of art history, and your restoration technique, remarkable for one so young." "Thank you," Olivia replied, shaking his hand. "My grandfather was an excellent teacher." "Indeed he was," Laurent agreed. "I had the pleasure of working with Theodore on the Vermeer authentication in '89. He spoke often of his brilliant granddaughter, though I admit I pictured a child." Olivia's eyes widened. "He talked about me." "But of course, my Olivia has the eye," he would say, "not just for technique, but for the story behind the art. He was most insistent that you would surpass him one day." Laurent smiled warmly. I believe he was correct. Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. All those summers spent learning from her grandfather, she had never known he had spoken of her with such pride to his colleagues. As she composed herself, a familiar figure appeared at the gallery entrance, Victoria Westbrook, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. Their eyes met across the room, and after a moment's hesitation, Victoria approached. "Miss Reed, Olivia," she began awkwardly. "I came to New York for a shopping trip and saw the exhibition advertised. I hope you don't mind my coming." "Not at all," Olivia replied evenly. "Art is for everyone to appreciate." Victoria glanced at the magnificent Matisse, then back to Olivia. "It truly is beautiful. I owe you an apology for how I treated you, both at the auction and before." "You saw what you expected to see," Olivia said, echoing her words from the night of the gathering. "Most people did." "Yes, well, the town is quite different now," Victoria continued. "Everyone claims they always knew there was something special about that Reed girl. The farm has become something of a local landmark." Olivia laughed softly. "I'm sure it has." Will you be coming back?" Victoria asked hesitantly. "Of course," Olivia replied. "The farm is still my home. I've hired help to maintain it while I split my time between there and New York." Victoria nodded, then added with surprising sincerity, "The Arts Council would still welcome your involvement whenever you're in town." After Victoria departed, Marcus squeezed Olivia's hand. "Quite a change from who invited the help." "People evolve," Olivia replied philosophically. "Sometimes they just need their perspective challenged." As the evening progressed, Olivia found a quiet moment to stand alone before her grandfather's photograph in the exhibition. The placard beside it detailed his contributions to art authentication and his tireless search for paintings Bob lost during the war. "We get it, grandfather," she whispered. "You found it, and I brought it home." A soft voice behind her said, "He knew you would." Turning, Olivia found an elderly woman she didn't recognize studying her with kind eyes. "I'm sorry," Olivia said. "Do I know you?" "No, dear, but I knew Theodore well. I worked with him at the gallery in London before he retired to farming." The woman smiled. "He wrote to me about you often. His last letter said, 'Olivia will finish what I started. She just doesn't know it yet.'" Tears filled Olivia's eyes again. "I miss him every day." "As do I," the woman replied gently. "But he lives on in you, not just in your skills, but in your integrity. Theodore always believed art belonged to humanity, not locked away in private collections. That's why I insisted on a museum exhibition rather than selling to a private collector," Olivia explained, "no matter how high the offers went." "And they went quite high," I imagine the woman said with a knowing smile. "High enough to support the farm for generations," Olivia acknowledged. But that was never the point. As they continued talking, Marcus approached with Diana Harrington and several board members from the Metropolitan. "Olivia," Diana said, "the board has just authorized me to make you an official offer. We'd like the Matisse to make its permanent home here at the Met, with proper credit to you and your grandfather as the discoverers and authenticators." And one of the board members added, "We'd like to establish the Theodore Reed Fellowship for Promising Authenticators without formal credentials. With you as its first recipient, of course." Overwhelmed, Olivia looked around at the gathered faces, Marcus beaming with pride, Diana's professional respect, and the elderly woman's knowing smile. She thought of her grandfather, who had taught her to see value where others saw nothing, and of the simple farmhouse where she had discovered her true calling. "I would be honored," she said finally, "on both counts." Later that evening, as the exhibition closed to the public, Olivia and Marcus, walked through the quiet gallery, their footsteps echoing on the polished floor. "What happened to Blake?" Olivia asked suddenly. "I haven't heard anything about him since that night at Westbrook Manor." Marcus smiled grimly. "Let's just say his reputation hasn't recovered. After his behavior toward you became public knowledge, several museums began investigating his past acquisitions. There are rumors of questionable provenance on at least 3 major pieces in his collection." "I never wanted to ruin him," Olivia said thoughtfully. "I just wanted to protect the painting." "You did what your grandfather would have done," Marcus assured her. "The art world is better for it." They stopped before the Matisse one last time. The vibrant colors and bold brushstrokes captured a moment in time. A woman gazing out a window, perhaps contemplating the world beyond her immediate surroundings, just as Olivia had done all those years on the farm. "Do you ever think about how different things might have been?" Marcus asked. "If people had known who you really were from the beginning?" Olivia considered this. "I don't think I knew who I really was until that auction night. Sometimes we need others' perceptions to challenge us before we fully step into ourselves." "The farmer girl who shocked everyone," Marcus said with a smile, recalling the newspaper headline that had run after the discovery was announced. "I'm still a farmer girl," Olivia replied. "That part was never false. I just happen to be other things too." As they prepared to leave, Diana approached with a small package. "I almost forgot. This arrived for you today from Franklin Westbrook." Curious, Olivia opened it to find a handwritten note and a faded photograph of her grandfather standing beside a much younger Franklin. The note read simply, "Your grandfather once told me that true value often hides in plain sight. I didn't understand until now. The town of Westbrook has established an annual scholarship in Theodore Reed's name for local students pursuing art education. We hope you'll present the first award this summer." Olivia smiled, tucking the note and photo carefully into her purse. The journey that had begun with mockery at an auction had transformed not just her life, but the perspective of an entire community. "Ready to go home?" Marcus asked, offering his arm. "Yes," Olivia replied, thinking of both the farm that had shaped her and the new world that had opened before her. "To all my homes." As they stepped out into the New York evening, Olivia Reed, farmer, art authenticator, granddaughter, and now recognized expert, walked with the confidence of someone who had always known her true worth, even when others had failed to see it. Behind her, safeguarded in one of the world's greatest museums, the Matisse shone brilliantly on the wall, a testament to the fact that sometimes the most extraordinary things come disguised in the most ordinary packages, just waiting for someone with the right eyes to discover their true value.